Hey everyone, good evening. I hope you all are doing well tonight. Got a fun live stream here. Ask me anything. It's going to be no holds bar. Go in, see if you can stump me, or actually, hopefully, don't do that. Just ask questions you want answers to, not just to try and stump me, because that's not that hard. There's a lot of content in retirement planning, and I'm sure if we picked a difficult question, wouldn't be able to answer it. But anyways, David, thanks so much for showing up. Hey there, appreciate you coming in. So I saw a couple questions on the Facebook post comment. So I'm just going to start with those. And if you guys like it, then we'll just carry on with questions in the live stream. But to get us started, I'll just answer one of those, early bird gets the worm sort of thing. Real quick, let me just give you all a quick disclaimer tonight. All this information is educational in nature, so none of it is specific tax, legal, or investment advice for your situation. Always talk with your tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action on your situation. So, okay, we got that fun disclaimer out of the way here. So, hey, Ryan, thanks so much for joining, man. Appreciate you for coming in and saying hi. Love it. Love to see it. So, all right. So I guess the first question I got from the Facebook group, and actually, let me see if I can share my screen and I can just show you guys the video here. Actually, I don't know if that's going to work. You probably can't see it very well, but anyways, I'll just read it out to you guys. So question for tonight: I'm retired. I've been doing Roth conversions from my 401k for the past 2 years. I don't want to do more than I need to, as I'm hoping not to exceed the amount that would put us into another tax bracket or affect our Medicare payments. I'm also planning to move some of the 401k into an IRA to pay a qualified charitable contribution. I think they mean qualified charitable distribution, otherwise known as a QCD. This is a charity that I've always made payments to my whole life based on my income earnings. Is there a way to calculate the possible RMD that I might get from the IRA so that the RMD pays the qualified charity? I hopefully avoid paying more than I have to in taxes on the IRA. So yeah, the good news is that you can, well, let me start off by saying this. I guess it depends on whether you're at RMD age or not. If you are currently having to make RMDs, and RMDs are just required minimum distributions, the government forces people to begin taking money out of their IRA accounts, not Roth IRA, just traditional pre-tax retirement accounts. Just depending on when you were born, they've changed these rules recently a lot over the past couple of years. It used to be 70 and a half. Now it's age 73. And I think, don't quote me on this, for people maybe born 1960 or later, it's 75. So they just depending on when you live is when your RMD age starts. And basically you have to pull money out of your IRA, and that means you have to pay taxes on that money. So like Uncle Sam, he's patient, he's not generous, he wants to get his money from you. So they're asking about RMDs, and then they're also specifically asking about how that kind of plays into QCDs. QCDs, qualified charitable distribution. This is something you're allowed to do once you turn age 70 and a half. You have to actually be age 70 and a half or better. Or older when I say that. And what this allows you to do is it can count for your required minimum distribution. RMD, the government says, hey, you have to take out $10,000 this year. Well, with a QCD, qualified charitable distribution, instead of taking the money out and paying taxes on it, you can take the money out of your IRA, send it directly to the charity. And for example, in this example, if it was a $10,000 QCD, you follow the rules for it, then that'll count as your RMD requirement for the year. So they're saying is, hey, I want to do these QCDs so that I can still make charitable contributions in retirement and not have to take more money out of my IRA than I have to and pay taxes on it. So how do I figure this out? And the answer to this is, one, if you are currently of age, you're currently taking required minimum distributions, you can know for a fact, hey, this year I need to take out, X amount from my retirement accounts, and they get aggregated per person. So a married couple, each person will, if they are old enough, will have to start taking required minimum distributions, and so they'll each have their own requirements. Remember, IRAs, individual retirement accounts are individual. So Susan can't make RMD payments for both her and Bob. If Bob has RMDs, it's got to come out of Bob's retirement accounts, and Susan's got to come out of her retirement accounts. But anyway, so if you know that you're age 73, you know what your RMD is this year, you just say, hey, okay, my RMD is whatever it is. Usually your financial institution, your brokerage that you're working with, if you have an account at Schwab, Vanguard, Fidelity, etc., they will tell you what your RMD is for the year. If you don't have that information, just give them a call and they'll usually just tell you that for free. So, pro tip right there. Once you have that RMD information, you can say, okay, I know I need to take out, for example, $10,000. Well, then I'll do my QCD of whatever. And then if you do a QCD of $5,000, then you'll only need to take another additional $5,000 out as an RMD. So you only have to pay taxes on $5,000 because the QCD, the charitable qualified charitable distribution, is non-taxable. So the money comes out of your account, but you don't have to pay taxes on it. So it's a way to make sure you benefit from an income tax perspective for paying a charity. So you actually get to reduce your taxes and be charitably inclined. Because if you make a normal charitable distribution, not using a QCD, depending on your tax situation, you may not actually get any tax benefits for it, even if it is to a qualified charity and all that good stuff. Because the standard, well, I won't go into all the details of that. That'll take us way off topic. So if you're talking about future years, maybe you haven't started required minimum distributions yet, RMDs, and you're like, hey, how do I know how to calculate this? Really you can't. At the end of the day, we're talking about projecting the future. It's all going to depend on how your investments perform over time, and the IRS distribution table. That's the basic. There's really only two factors into calculating an RMD. It's how much money is in your retirement account as of the last day of the prior year, and your life expectancy. And there's different life expectancy tables depending on your situation the IRS uses to calculate that. But I guess if you left all your money in cash in your retirement account, you could know. But even then, you're going to be getting interest. So no. You're just going to make a future projection and have to go off your best guess for that. Now, I think they had a second question in here. I'm hoping to estimate how much more I can or need to roll over to the Roth based on the RMD that could remain in the IRA. The yearly, quarterly taxes on the Roth are starting to affect my bottom line living experience. Hope this makes sense. I'm trying to reduce our taxable income in the future. So yes, I think the question there is, hey, how do I integrate this into my tax efficient withdrawal strategy? Meaning, your choices of taking money out of different accounts, doing Roth conversions can help lower your taxes over your lifetime, but you got to be really careful about how you go about doing that. And they're basically saying, hey, I want to make sure that I'm optimizing this situation. And the issue with that is that if you're, I think what they're trying to make sure is that they don't do too much Roth conversions to lower their future RMDs enough where then their QCD will cover their RMD and then more than that. They're basically saying, hey, if I'm projecting my RMDs in the future are $10,000, well, then I don't want to do too much Roth conversions and lower my RMDs lower than $10,000 because I know I'm going to be taking out at least $10,000 and giving it to charity. I'm okay with that. Again, though, I would think of there's two things I want to say here. One, it's really important that for Roth conversions, you just think about tax rates today versus tax rates in the future. That's the bottom line guiding principle on them and first order principle. And because of that, so you just really want to make sure you're thinking about tax rates today versus the future for Roth conversions. That's really important. The second piece to that, though, is that what's also important in the Roth conversion decision is knowing how much charitable contributions you want to make or think you want to make. Because for a really extreme example, if you convert a ton of money into a Roth IRA and then you realize, oh, shoot, I want to give most of that money away to charity. Well, you're just giving less money to charity because charities don't have to pay taxes on the money you give to them. And so you pay the taxes to get the money in the Roth IRA, but then you're just giving it to charity. It's like, well, you probably shouldn't have done the Roth conversion in the first place. So, and then last thing that's really interesting there is they said, my yearly, quarterly taxes on my Roth conversions are starting to affect my bottom line living experience. And I'm going to stop sharing this, go back to the live stream here. So bottom line living experience, your Roth conversions really shouldn't affect your retirement income if done properly and if thinking about it. Because just taking a step back here, Roth conversions are a tax planning strategy. Okay, so if you're spending $5,000 a month, okay, that's what you think you can, safely spend in retirement. Let's say it's 60 grand a year after taxes. Roth conversions actually technically should help increase your income if done correctly. You're reducing your lifetime income tax burden, which means you just have more after-tax money to spend on yourself or others. So you're allowed to, if you're kind of made your calculations right, spend $5,000 a month per year on your spending, and then your Roth conversion taxes you have to pay. That's just additional money that comes out. So you think you can spend $5,000 a month for Roth conversions, 60 grand a year. Well, then, okay, above that, I've got I've got $10,000, $20,000 in taxes I need to pay on a Roth conversion. So that year you'll take $80,000 out of your portfolio, 60 to live on, 20 for the Roth conversion taxes. So you don't need to reduce your living standard to pay the taxes for Roth conversions. Hope that makes sense. So that man, they packed like 3 questions in there. They really got me. So let's see. I got another question in here. So I think I will take the question on the live stream, and then I'll go back to that Facebook group questions for more. And, while I'm here, I just want to double check. I realize I never checked if my YouTube stream is working. So I just want to make sure it is. Okay, great. And it is. Oh, and I see David posted a question on there. I appreciate that, David. So I'll get your question on YouTube in a second. Oh, but it also pops up here. Nice. So I don't have to worry about that. Cool. Okay. So YouTube's working well. That's good. All right. So are Roth conversions one way to lower your estate to minimize estate taxes since they are 40%? I do know that heirs get a credit for the amount of taxes paid on IRA, but when I calculated, it was better to do Roth conversion. Is this true? It's a great question, and it depends if we're talking about federal estate taxes or state estate taxes. So for federal estate tax purposes, Roth conversions are neutral. They're no better or worse because what the federal government essentially does is says, hey, let's just say someone passes away and they have $1 million pre-tax IRA account. The federal government recognizes that if I give away $1 million IRA account to my beneficiaries and I have to pay estate taxes on that IRA, well, my beneficiaries, when they get that IRA, they get $1 million bucks. Or actually, so let's say $1 million IRA, they have to pay estate taxes on it. Okay. And so because they have to pay estate taxes, the estate has to take some money out of the IRA and really they have to pay $100,000. So there's only $900,000 left in the IRA, and then that gets passed on to the beneficiaries. Well, so the federal government recognizes, hey, that's a little unfair because, you just paid, you had $1 million asset. We made you take money out, pay taxes on it to pay estate taxes. So it's kind of a form of double taxation. So what the government does is say, okay, they kind of work that out by saying, hey, beneficiaries, we're going to give you essentially a income tax credit. Remember, credit reduces your income taxes dollar for dollar to help offset the estate taxes paid on this pre-tax asset. Because we know that the beneficiaries, even though they get $1 million, they still have to pay taxes on it. So they're not actually getting $1 million to spend. It's going to be $1 million minus the taxes they have to pay to actually receive the money. And so it's kind of not fair to pay estate taxes on essentially taxes as well. So for federal estate tax purposes, Roth conversions basically balance it out. Now that's like a general concept. Could there be small little education in the tax code and maybe for other reasons you can't use the credit? Maybe. I mean, I'm certainly no like expert on it. There's a million ways about it, but in general, like Roth conversions aren't going to help too much with the federal estate tax unless they could be helpful for your situation just because, hey, you're converting at a lower tax rate today than the future. And so you're kind of locking in a low tax rate, and that's going to help increase your after-tax wealth, which is exactly what you're going after. So obviously don't have the calculations or not seeing what the calculations are, but that's the general case for federal estate taxes. Now, State-to-state taxes, those exist, but there's only like maybe a dozen states. It's pretty low now. How many states have a state-to-state tax? But Illinois, my home state where I live in Chicago, has a state tax. And you bet Roth conversions can help with this. It's $4 million per person, non-portable. And so it's important because hey, you go over that $4 million, you get hit with these estate taxes. Roth conversions just reduce the dollar amount of your assets, right? But the benefit to them is more of those assets are tax-free. So you got to balance that. That's the whole Roth conversion deal. But so for state-to-state taxes, that Roth conversions can be beneficial. I know I also helped someone in Washington State, not Washington, D.C., Washington State, above Oregon, below Canada, Vancouver, that one. And Roth conversions, again, were helpful for the Washington State estate tax. So they can definitely help on a state for some of the states, at least. I don't know all 12 off the top of my head if it's helpful for all of them, but definitely some of them. So there we go. That's my answer. Let's keep the questions coming. I'm going to go back to the Facebook group, and David asked me a little softball question, but I appreciate that, David. He said, question for you tonight, Larry. What is the most rewarding and challenging aspect about being a financial planner? So thanks, David, for the softball question here. Let's start out with the most rewarding part of it. It's just helping people. I mean, just like, it's a really cool profession because you get to actually interact with the people you help. A lot of professions, you're doing things that are really helpful, really valuable, important, but sometimes you don't get to see the end result on it. I actually get to work with people and help people. So that's definitely the best and most fun and rewarding part of it is seeing someone smile light up when, I was helping someone save them estimating like $40,000 of taxes. And he had a big old grin on his face, and he's a happy camper. So that's cool. Or more importantly, I mean, really, really what I love doing is someone who thinks they need to work, 3 more years and I help them retire like today. That's giving people their time back is invaluable, right? Time's our most valuable resource. And when I can help someone get back more time, that's, I feel really good. And it gives me the warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Challenging aspects of it. I think predicting the future, right? I mean, we're predicting the future in the job for a lot of it. And that's challenging, makes a fool out of all of us from time to time. And that can be challenging. But I think too, it also is hard when, I have to give bad news to people, like on the flip side, hey, they thought they could retire today. And it's like, well, you didn't really think about long-term care, or, you planned on dying at 77 and you're, you have no health problems right now. You're 65. It's little, you're going to be really upset come 78 if you blew all your money. So that sort of thing can be challenging. But obviously, it's my job to be that guy sometimes. So that happens. So I think that's challenging. Maybe too, if, I'm struggling to, get a concept across to a client, that can be frustrating if we're not on the same page about something. But yeah, so I appreciate the question, David. Let's see, what else have we got here? Okay. Another one from David. Bonus question. What cognitive biases have the most significant impact on people's financial lives? Ooh. Okay. I forget the name for this one, but this one comes to mind. It's the cognitive bias where something you own is more valuable because you already own it. It's like ownership bias, or I forget the technical term for it. And when I see this all the time is people who have individual stocks. So I can think of one individual I worked with, worked for, Fortune 500 company. Everyone recognized this in their employee stock purchase plan. They got a discount on buying their employer stock. They bought a lot of it, had like $1 million. I think it was like around $1 million. And, this was earlier so they had $1 million this stock, and, they were really attached to it. It had done really well. I said, hey, this is a big chunk of your net worth. I think it was like 25%. I was like, 10% is like 5 to 10% is like, okay, I'll give you a little wiggle room there. I like to see 5% or under, but like we can have a little bit of wiggle room there. But 10%, I'm like, hey, we got to get it under 10%. At least start, like have a plan. Even if we don't do it all at once, that's what I would prefer. Let's get a multi-year plan in place. And they're like, no, Larry, I'm good. We're not getting rid of this stock. I have it. Love it. That company had some major issues come up that were, no warning basically. And the stock price tanked, and unless it recovers, which it could, but their retirement plan is a little on delay now because of that. And so I see that screw up people all the time. Or it could be a home they own, and to make the retirement plan work, they got to get rid of it. Or really any asset that they have, especially when it's falling in value, can be really difficult to get rid of. And that kind of ties in. This is actually double psychological bias whammy. You have this, you own it. So it's more, you think it's shiny, you own it, you think it's valuable to you, and you get anchored to a price. Anchoring bias is another cognitive bias I see all the time that really throws people for a loop. And anchoring bias just means you see a certain price, and that's the price you always think of about this financial asset. So for example, you own stock, and let's see, do I know like a stock price off? Let's just say you have a stock that's $100 a share, and so you're anchored to that $100. And so on the flip side, like, stock price is at $200. You're like, oh, great, I've made 100% profit. And it's like, well, they just get anchored to that number or that amount for some reason. But usually it's more dangerous on the downside, which is, hey, I had a stock at $100 and now it's only worth $50. Well, let me just wait till it gets back to 100. Like, then I'll sell. I'll break even. It's fine. It's like, the $50 is already lost. So we have to make a decision if we want to hold on and risk it more, or see if it'll come back. I just see a lot of people get sucked into like that downward loop spiral of, well, I'm anchored at $100. I got to stay here, sort of thing. So let's see, that's kind of the two that are coming most to mind. I think too, just with personal finances, I feel like a lot of people can get caught up in what's good for them is good for me. Like they hear about people, friends, people in the news, whatever, that says, hey, you got to do this. This is great. Maybe it was great for their situation, but it might not be great for yours, or that might not be how you want to spend your money in your life. Maybe you, for example, maybe you want to downsize and get rid of your big, nice home because you want to go, retire a couple years sooner, or, like everyone says you have to travel in retirement. So I ask people like, what do you want to do in retirement? They're like, I don't know. I guess I'll go travel because that's what everybody does. And it's like, well, it's your one life. Let's live it up and do what's right for you. Not just because everyone says that's what you're supposed to do when you retire. And that's the hard part about retiring, frankly, is there's no playbook, right? It's all so individualized that you could, I have retirees who are going like hiking mountains like Kilimanjaro and I think Mount Whitney, or maybe something in Alaska. I got a client, they're doing some really cool hikes in Alaska, and like I guess that's travel, but really I don't think that's most people's idea of a fun time traveling, like going to hiking up these tall mountains. But they love it. That's what fulfills them. So I think social proof is the cognitive bias of just following the crowd. And it can be really difficult because everyone's retirement is going to be a little different, and what's good for you isn't good for them. Just with my wife's family, her grandpa's a farmer. He farmed till 90. Like he never retired. He loved that. He loves farming. Like, that's what he lived for. So do what's good for you. Okay, thanks for that one, David. Talked a lot about that one. I'm going to go back to the Facebook group real quick. We got another question on there from Denise. If I leave money in my traditional IRA and use money from there for long-term medical care, does that money come out non-taxable? If so, why? Great question. Let me actually pull out the whiteboard for this question, because I think, one, I just kind of want to use the whiteboard, to be frank. But two, I think it might help me, because I'm going to have to describe some things that's going to be a little difficult talking. Okay. You can all see me. Okay, so the question is, hey, I'm going to leave money in my traditional IRA. I'm not going to do a bunch of Roth conversions. And part of what I'm thinking is that then I'll be able to take that money out, potentially tax-free, to use for medical expenses later in life. If I have a bunch of long-term care expenses, or just higher medical expenses later in life. Sounds great. But they said, hey, how do I know if it's going to be, I hear that it's going to potentially be non-taxable. How do I know if it's going to be or not? How does that work? So we have an IRA here. Okay. That's great. Great six figures IRA. And let's say the IRA has $100,000 in it. So you pull the money out. Normally, when you pull money out of an IRA, you have to pay taxes, right? Some has got to go to the IRS. Oh, look at that. Made a nice square for me. IRS. And then some goes to your checking account, bank account. Well, the issue is that there's something in the tax code today, which of course could always change, right? It could always change, but based on the tax code today, there's the medical expense deduction, which says, hey, we're going to give you a percentage of the amount of money that you pay, a percent of that you can use to reduce your income taxes. So what do I mean by all that? Well, let me show you guys. And actually, so you have your standard deduction there, and then you have itemized deduction. So this is standard deduction, item deduction. So when you pull money out of this IRA and you pay for medical expenses, that is going to be a medical expense deduction, which is going to go under itemized deduction. So let me write in here goes medical expense deduction. Okay, I've got great handwriting, I know. So everybody gets the standard deduction, okay? All the standard deduction is, let's see, for 2023, what's the standard deduction? Got a little cheat sheet right here. $13,850 per person. So the way it works is the government just says, hey, I'm going to give you $13,800 tax-free. So you can have income up to $13,800 tax-free. I'm just giving it to you. It's a freebie. Use it or lose it. But then the government also says, hey, I'm giving that to everyone, but I also have these other, you can add up all of these itemized deduction, meaning, hey, there's a list of expenses you have that you can add up and deduct and use that instead of the standard deduction. So this is standard deduction or itemized deduction. You can only do one or the other. So if you add up all the items in your itemized deduction, which this is your state and local taxes, so property taxes, state income taxes, your mortgage interest, at least part of it, is an itemized deduction. And let's see, what's another popular itemized deduction? Charitable contributions are an itemized deduction. So you add up all these different preferences. Medical expense deduction is one of them. Now, medical expense deduction is a little bit more complicated. Actually, let me just finish my thought here. So you add all those up. If your itemized deduction is higher than your standard deduction, then you get to take the itemized deduction over the standard deduction because it'll give you more tax-free income. Let's say itemized deduction is $20,000. You add up all your itemized expenses, it's $20,000. You get to take $20,000 of tax-free income, reduces your the income that's taxed by $20,000. Pretty good deal versus the standard deduction only gives you $13,800 for 2023. But we know standard deduction is going to decrease in the future. We know this in the future is going to go down in the future, beginning in 2026, based on current tax code. Of course, this is someone saying, I'm just going to assume they're probably many years away from a bunch of medical expenses down the road in retirement. That's what they're worried about and thinking about. So, we're talking 10, 20 years down the road. The tax code will likely be different. How much different, we don't know. But as the medical expense deduction stands today, it's part of these itemized deductions. Now, medical expense deduction is, Oh man, I can't remember the exact percentage. They change it every year. I think actually, I bet I can Google this real quick. Medical expense itemized deduction 2023. All right, I'm seeing 7.5% of your income is what I just Googled off the internet. So that sounds, I can't remember if it's 8.5, 7.5%. So it's 7.5% of your adjusted gross income. Okay. So medical expense deduction, 7.5% of AGI, which is your adjusted gross income, which is basically your income minus a couple like little adjustments, which we won't get into. But so if you have $10,000 of medical expenses, so you have $10,000 of medical expenses, you only get to use 7.5% of that as the amount that can reduce your income. So 10K times 0.075 is equal to it's gonna be what, $75? $750. So oh, and excuse me, that's not what you get. It's anything above 7.5% you get to use as an expense of your income. So yeah, sorry, let me back up here and delete some of this. Oh, why isn't that going away? Or that. Let me. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let me back up here for a second. So your total income is equal to, let's say, $50,000. Okay. So that was your total income for the year. So you take your total income times 7.5% times 0.075. And let's see, that's going to be $3,750. So $3,750. So your medical expenses, to use a medical expense deduction, has to be over $3,750. So what this means is, let's say you have medical expense of $4,000. You spend $4,000 a year on out-of-pocket medical expenses. Now this limit, which is based on your income for the year times 0.075% for 2023, is $3,750. So that means you can only use any amount above $3,750. If you had $4,000 of expenses, you'd reduce it by $3,750, and that would give you $250 that you could use to reduce your income for the year. And so if you think about it, if you, for your IRA, take out $4,000 worth from your IRA and to pay for medical expenses, then $250 of it is going to be tax-free because of this calculation. Now, what's difficult about this calculation, and man, oops, didn't want to do that. Let me show one more thing, is that since the calculation depends on your income, you've got your income, IRA, distribution, and then medical expense. So is it taxable or not is going to depend on these three things. But as your income goes up, it gets harder to get a tax benefit for your medical expenses. So as your income goes up, remember, that's raising the kind of that's raising the floor of how much medical expenses you need to get a benefit, because as your income goes up, 7.5% of it, that's your floor. If you have medical expenses over that, you get to deduct it. So as your income goes up, you basically need more medical expenses to get the same amount of benefit from them. And remember, IRA distributions, what do? They increase your income. So that's going to count that AGI figure. So you're going to have either pretty low income or have large income sources outside of your IRA distributions or actually, I might want to say you might want to have small income sources outside of your IRA distributions relative to your medical expenses. Now, again, the higher your medical expenses are, likely the more you're going to be able to deduct. But you get into this situation where, hey, if you're taking all of your money out for your medical expenses from your IRA distributions, then your IRA distributions are going to go up. That's going to increase your income, which is going to reduce the tax benefit. I should say tax benefit here of med expense. So that tax benefit's going to go down a little bit because of that 7.8 or 7.5% cap there. So that's why it's kind of hard to say, hey, you're probably going to get some. I mean, in actuality, though, let me show one more example. If you have, let's say you have like $100,000 of medical expenses, we'll say long-term care. And let's say you have a long-term care policy. Well, actually, no, that's not going to count because this all has to be out of pocket that you're paying. So you have $100K medical expenses. Let's say that you have $100,000 you take out from your IRA. That's your only income for the year, right? So $100K IRA distribution. Well, okay, we're going to take 7.5% of that. That's going to be $7,500. And so you get to deduct the amount above $7,500, which is $100K, right? So it's going to be 100,000 minus 7,500 equals $92,500 that you can use to reduce your taxable income. So you'd have $92,500. So then you had 100K of income. You have 100K of income minus 92.5K leaves you with only $7,500 of taxable income. So your IRA, you took out 100K. Man, that is not a good looking whiteboard right there. So you took out 100K. Only have to pay taxes. Only taxed on 7.5K. So it's going to depend on kind of how much medical expenses you have relative to how much taxable income you have. The higher the medical expenses you have relative to your taxable, or I shouldn't say taxable income, your adjusted gross income, the more benefit you're going to get out of it. But so this IRA, you're only taxed on $7,500 out of it, even though you took out $100,000. And then, I mean, gosh, you're taxed on $7,500. That's only going to fill up like the 10. Well, that's not even going to fill up the 10% bracket. So you're going to pay taxes like $750 on a 100K IRA distribution because your medical expenses are so high. But if we dropped your medical expenses to 50K, it's going to be different. So I don't know. I think I probably talked about that a little too long, but Denise, I got your back, got that answered for you. So hope that's helpful. And we'll go from there. So let me know if you have any other questions about that. All right. I got another question here, and actually let me exit out of this whiteboard here. Okay. I'm torn between doing more Roth conversions or getting as much ACA premium subsidies as possible. I'm 60, spouse 55. We expect to be on ACA for the next 10 years. Okay, so there's 60, spouse 55, expecting an ACA. Okay, so first off, Roth conversions, taking money from an IRA, putting it into a Roth IRA. You're allowed to do this, but you have to pay taxes on the money you move as long as it's all pre-tax dollars. But again, Roth IRAs have tax-free growth if you follow the withdrawal rules. So there's kind of that balance. So I pay the piper now to get tax-free growth later on. Depends on tax rates today versus the future. What the heck is ACA subsidies? Well, ACA stands for Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. Remember, it came out. There's now that public health insurance exchange option. Great for people who are retiring before age 65. They need to get access to healthcare. Now the premiums are large. I mean, you routinely see people, especially like in their 60s, paying over $1,000 a month. Yeah, I mean, I even see 1,500. I think 1,750 might have been back, and then that's like for I don't. That's not even for gold plans either. That's not even for like really high deductible plans. So health insurance really expensive. Probably all of you knew that. So these ACA subsidies, what the government did is the government said, okay, these premiums are super high, $1,000, $1,500 for people potentially. So what we'll do is we will pay for some of the premiums for people, but they need to have low income. We only want to help low income people. Well, as some of you may know about retirement, you have a lot more flexibility over controlling your income, what you recognize, what you don't. So some retirees, in order to get their health insurance subsidized by their government, that we can keep their income low. Now, what do we know about Roth conversions? Roth conversions increases your income. So guess what happens? If you have these ACA premium subsidies, again, the government, so technically the government reduces your taxes for the ACA premium subsidy, but you can just think of it as the government reducing your healthcare premiums, because that's basically what it is. We won't get into like the actual specifics of how they do that, but just take me that for our purposes today, government helps reduce your ACA health insurance premiums only for the public exchange, not for private insurance, anything like that. Now, Roth conversions increase your income. So what can happen is Roth conversions increase your income, and that means your ACA premiums go down. So you're getting taxed on your Roth conversion income, and you're causing your ACA health insurance premiums to increase. So it's kind of like a double tax situation. Double taxes, usually not good. So this is really tricky for a lot of people. And frankly, I honestly can't tell you what's better for your situation, right? It's kind of like calling up your mechanic and being like, hey, my car is broken down. Like, can you tell me what's wrong? And they're like, well, talk me through it. Got to tell me information. But even then, I'm just kind of guessing. I need to see the car, right? So without seeing your situation, I can't tell you for sure what's going on. But honestly, what I see for most of the people who I talk to come through this situation is you just keep little to no Roth conversions. Because the ACA premiums, especially with, I'm assuming both of you are on it, you and your spouse, with a dual spouse situation, you don't do much. Now, you do want to potentially make sure you don't have $0 of income, because I heard, and I'm not 100% on this, but I heard that if you have, basically no income for the year, you might get kicked off the ACA and go on to Medicaid, which is for really low income individuals, because there are like certain income limits there. But I've heard differing opinions on it. I'm not an expert on that, but so just something to think about with that. But so what I find is sometimes for the Roth conversions, like, and again, ACA premium, the subsidy is based on your adjusted gross income. Okay. So remember how I just talked about the deductions that reduce your income so you don't have to pay any taxes on it. Well, this is before those deductions. So what that means is that your standard deduction doesn't matter here. You could have a standard deduction for two spouses, it's what, 27,000 something this year. So that's $27,000 of tax-free income. So you could do a $27,000 Roth conversion, pay zero income taxes on it, but it's going to boost your income for ACA premium purposes. And you're going to lose some of those healthcare premium subsidies in your situation, even though you're paying no income taxes on the Roth conversion. So at least you're only getting taxed once, you're still getting taxed. So usually what I find for clients is we're being really tactical, doing like maybe $5,000 to $15,000 Roth conversions for the year. And usually the effective tax rate for losing the ACA premium credits, or the marginal tax rate in the Roth conversion, can be 12 to 15%. So it's almost like you're in the 12% bracket. And then too, if you add on that you're in the 10 or 12% bracket already, you could be looking at total tax rates combined of 22 to 24, 25%. So it can be challenging to do it. That's what I see in most cases. It's better just to take the premiums than do the Roth conversion. Because when you add up the total taxation, that's really how you think about it, is look at the income taxes you'll pay on the Roth conversion, add on the loss premium tax credits. That's your total taxes that you essentially pay to do this Roth conversion, convert that to a tax rate. So maybe it's 25%. Look at your future estimated tax rate. You got to make a decision on that and say, hey, is this higher or lower in the future? TIE usually goes to Roth conversions. If you can pay the Roth conversion taxes with outside money, then if they're tied, can still be a little beneficial, but it's hard once the tax rate is higher. Once your tax rate is lower in the future, then what you're converting at today gets really difficult to get a benefit from a Roth conversion. And last thing I want to say about this too is be really careful if you have low income. If you're got $15,000, $20,000 of income, because the ACA has special cost sharing plans and benefits to those plans that go away at lower income levels. So basically you won't have to pay as much for your out-of-pocket expenses. The deductible might be lower. The co-share percentage will be lower, meaning after you've hit your deductible and you have your co-insurance, percentage, which might be, normally 50%, maybe it'll only be 20% for these low cost plans. But again, that has its own income phase out, and the tax implication for ACA health insurance premiums actually has spikes in it. So especially at lower income levels, essentially what happens is the ACA says, hey, if, how exactly does the tax spike work? Essentially, they have a clawback where they won't claw back all of the health insurance premiums if your income is in these certain income bands and it's really low. But you go a little bit over this income band and all of a sudden oops, before we would have forgiven, $500 worth of ACA premium credits, but now we're going to make you pay all that back, even though you just increased your income by $100. So it's really complicated actually for people who with under $40,000 of income. Hope that was helpful. Yeah, I gotta quickly move on to these because man, the questions are coming in fast and furious. Okay, question resubmitted. How can I determine whether to do more Roth conversions or maximize? How can I determine whether to do more Roth conversions or maximize? Well, that got cut off, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Sorry about the technical difficulties. I'll come back to it. Maybe this is the same question. I was told it's best to keep money in traditional IRA to use to pay for a retirement community down payment. Is there a reason to keep some in traditional IRA for this possible purpose later? That's interesting. Retirement community down payment. So if you're not familiar, if you think there's the long-term care spectrum, right? And long-term care, and really it's maybe not even good to call this long-term care, but on the one end we have assisted living, right? You're on your own and you just get a little bit of help, or you have someone come into your house for an hour or two a day to help you with some things. But you're pretty independent. And then, eventually, maybe you have a little bit of in-home healthcare. Then you need to move to an assisted living facility where, there's kind of a nurse staff, but you're on your own. They're kind of there just to help you. You don't want to keep up with a property. Maybe you want a community. Then you have nursing home, which is expensive. And there's some facilities that say, hey, you buy into our program, you pay a big fee up front, but then we're going to cover you basically for the rest of your life. You're locked in. As long as we're around, you're good. We have this continuum of care. You can move through it. Big down payment for that. They have different payment options. Usually it's down payment and a monthly payment. So it's kind of buying a house with a mortgage. Except there's no equity in it usually, at least from what I've seen. So their question is, hey, this retirement community, best to keep some money in traditional IRA to use to pay for the retirement community down payment. Again, this is going to go back to that medical expense deduction question. And I'm not sure if the down payment on that will qualify as a medical expense for the medical expense deduction. Or maybe it might be some percentage of it, not all of it, because some of it you're just paying for housing expenses. Well, but they do long-term care. So Yeah, I guess I just don't know. I could see how it could qualify for it, but honestly, man, I ran into the situation like maybe 5 years ago. Um, but I don't remember the specifics of that with it. So sorry. But if you do get the medical expense deduction, then yes, it can make sense to keep money in the traditional IRA because you get it. Where if you don't get the medical expense deduction, then it may not be wise to keep money in the traditional IRA for that purpose. Not to say that there definitely is a lot of good in keeping money in your traditional IRA. I think when it comes to Roth conversions, a little bit less is more. Like, don't get too crazy with them. Usually, the optimal withdrawal strategy to create tax efficient income in retirement is to leave money in your traditional IRAs, not to empty it out, especially early in retirement. So hope that's helpful. Is it true that Roth conversions do not count as income when determining if you can make a Roth contribution if you have earned income when retired? Ooh, that's a little bit of a head scratcher. Okay. Is it true that Roth conversions do not count as income when determining if you can make a Roth contribution if you have earned income when retired? Yes, it is. I was just thinking there to make sure that I am remembering. But yeah, I was actually surprised when it was actually earlier this year, and I had I didn't realize that was the case. But yeah, if you're making a Roth IRA contribution, there's the income limits. Again, to make a Roth IRA contribution, you need earned income, which you said you have, so you can make up to 100% of that earned income, or essentially you can contribute the lesser of the full amount, which for this year is $7,500 with the catch-up contribution for an IRA contribution. I always forget this. That sounds right. Let's see. IRA contributions. Yeah, $6,500 plus $1,000 catch-up. So yeah, $7,500 catch. If you're over age 50, you can put up to $7,500 in a Roth IRA contribution. Or if your earned income is less than 7,500, then you can only put up, whatever your earned income is. Maybe it's 5,000 bucks. But now there's an income limit to this. So, I said this, but that's assuming you're under the income limit. If you're over it or you're in the phase out, those amounts are going to be less. But yes, Roth conversions, it gets backed out of for the calculation. It gets backed out of that income limit calculation, the Roth conversion income. And yeah, if you just Google like IRS publication 590A, I believe it is. IRS publication 590A. Let's see, is that right? Yeah, contributions to individual retirement accounts. You'll see it in there, and they'll talk about it. Remember, the ACA income cliff comes back in 2026. Oh yeah, great point, David. Yes. Thank you so much for calling that out, because going back to some of these ACA questions and that couple beforehand, right now it's really nice for two spouses because there's pros and cons. The pro is that your income, as your income goes up, you lose the premium subsidies, but it's pretty linear, right? Like the more income you have, the less subsidy you get. So as your income goes up, the subsidy goes down, but it's pretty like linear. Get a little bit more income, a little less healthcare premium subsidy. It used to be, this way, got changed. So beginning back in 2026, it's turning back into this way. Once you go over a certain dollar limit of income, which is it's a percentage of your income. It changes each year. So it's, we don't know what it's going to be in 2026. Once you go like $1 over this, you lose all the benefits. So it's kind of like IRMAA premiums. And so there's kind of like that cliff there, and you can just get hosed if you go like $1 over it. But the issue is that since it's this nice gradual decline, so I guess in 2026, it's important because to know that you have this cliff where, hey, if you're planning on being on ACA for a while and you have this big cliff in 2026 and you think you can't get your income below a certain point to whatever level, then maybe it makes sense to do some Roth conversions, bite the bullet, so that you can get your income under that limit in the future. But again, also that's assuming the tax code stays the same. We know it's not going to. How's it going to change? We don't know. So there's that thing to think about. There's an uncertain future. But then to the downside of that is that when you're doing Roth conversions, like I've seen the ACA premium subsidy phase out into the 22% tax bracket. So we're talking over $100,000 of income, and you're still getting some premium subsidies with because it's couple I'm thinking of, especially the couples. Your phase out can be ridiculously long with the ACA premium. So you do Roth conversions and okay, it's not just hey, I do a $10,000 Roth conversion, I lose some ACA premium credits, but then I'm good. I can the next 100,000 I don't have to pay anything. It's no, you stretch it out for tens of thousands of dollars with it. So thanks for bringing that up, David. Okay, I got 5 minutes and then I got to run, guys. So let me quickly bounce through the rest of these questions. I need to do Roth conversions. If I delay taking my Social Security, it will keep my income lower to accomplish this. However, if I don't take my Social Security until 70, I will lose out on a lot of money. So is it worth it to wait or pay a much higher IRMAA and claim it all? Okay. So love that you brought up this question. And I recently just had a YouTube video. Yes, I have a YouTube channel on this. So plug for myself here. Excuse me, was just talking about this, that in general, really bad idea to delay Social Security just to get more Roth conversions in. And here's the reason why. Social Security, tremendously valuable. For a married couple, easily for most people, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you want to maximize your Social Security in order to get the most cash you can from the government. That is much more important than, for most cases, than delaying Social Security just to get the Roth conversions. And the reason why, I'm actually going to go back to my my whiteboard here real quick. Is let's just say for argument's sake that you should or someone should take Social Security. If they take Social Security at 62, the earliest they can take it, they're going to get $20,000 more from Social Security during their lifetime. Okay, so $20K Social Security. Okay. Now, if they do a Roth conversion, and if they delay Social Security, okay, so they don't take it early, and this is SS at 62, they get $20,000 more. So if they delay Social Security, delay SS, they lose $20,000 from Social Security. But on the flip side, let's say they can do $20,000 more Roth conversions a year. And they get to do that for 8 years. Okay. So $20K Roth conversion, because again, remember, they delayed their Social Security, so they don't have that income there. So they can fill that, what income bracket Social Security would have filled up, the Social Security income, they're filling it up with Roth conversions. And they get 8 years, so that's times 8. So $20,000 times 8 years is $160,000 of additional Roth conversions they could do because they delayed Social Security. Well, let's say the Roth conversions, let's say that for argument's sake, they can do this at 12%, okay, 12% tax bracket, and they think they're going to be in the 25% tax bracket in the future. So they're saving about 13% from tax rate differential. They think they're going to pay taxes at 25% in the future. They pay taxes now at 12%. They just save themselves 12% or 13% of taxes, right? Well, so roughly this $160,000 of Roth conversions, like a real conservative way to think about it. And again, you can get more sophisticated with it. It's going to depend on how long you live, your investment returns, all this stuff. But just think of quick, back the napkin math on Roth conversion benefit. $160,000 of Roth conversion, you're saving about 13% tax differential. So it's going to be $160,000 times the 13% taxes you save times 0.3 is $20,800 in tax savings in tax savings. Now, you get $20,000 more from Social Security if you start at age 62. Remember, this is also present. This is also present dollars. So this tax savings for, well, I guess the Roth conversion is roughly present dollars too. So I guess in this example I gave here, like the Roth conversion benefit roughly adds up to more you would have taken with Social Security. I probably should have put Social Security a little bit higher, because usually optimal Social Security claiming strategies are going to give you, like, depending on how long you live, $50,000, $100,000 more over your lifetime. Of course, that also depends on how long you live. Social Security is a better strategy to hedge longevity, risk of worry about running out of money in life. I just think that you want to be really careful with just delaying Social Security because of Roth conversions. Make sure you run the math on what you're giving up for Social Security. It's a really valuable benefit. So that's my take. And the other thing about doing Roth conversions just to avoid IRMA in the future is that, remember, we don't know what the IRMA brackets are. Medicare is slightly underfunded. They might need to make some changes to get it super funded. I actually saw a really interesting article today in the New York Times, but I don't have time to talk about that. It was that Medicare spending is actually really drastically leveled off, which has been really good for the federal budget. But they don't really know why. But so just be careful doing Roth conversions to potentially save IRMA 10, 20 years down the road, because it's really hard to project income out that far out. The other idea is to get on one of those Christian health ministry options and continue to do Roth conversions. Though I've heard some good things about those health ministries, it is kind of risky since they aren't insurance. Yeah, it's a good point. If you have, so what they're talking about is they're not insurance, but they function like insurance, and that you pay in, and usually it's associated with like a religion, a faith-based one. But I think there might be like one or two non-religious affiliated ones. And you pay in money to them. You pay, I think it's like a donation is what they say. You make these donations, which function like health insurance premiums. And then you have to pay for your medical expenses out of pocket, but they will reimburse you as long as it's, it's like one of their agreed upon reimbursable medical expenses. But I think someone even mentioned that they don't cover pre-existing conditions usually, or they're very limited in what they will cover. They can drop you at any point in time. So, we covered you for this year, but you had cancer and that chemotherapy, it's going to cost a couple $100,000. We're not sure we're going to be able to afford that in the future, so we got to drop you. And they have no contractual obligation to actually pay you the money. So you're just giving them money with no contractual obligation in return. I don't recommend them. I have had clients that have used them and it worked out great for them, but that does not mean that it's smart to do. So yeah, but look into them. I told my wife I was going to eat dinner, and I told her I'd be done at 8, and I'm not. So I'm on the clock. I'm getting yanked, you all. But I really appreciate this. Love all the questions. Thanks so much for participating, because you guys really make this with all your questions showing up, asking. I love that you guys were telling me, hey, Larry, you missed this thing. Do you think about this? We'll definitely do this again. And I'm sorry I didn't get to everyone's questions, but I'll try and do a follow-up, something. Maybe I'll do like a quick little video or something tomorrow. Great YouTube content, actually. So yeah, I'll definitely do that and get to some of these questions. So appreciate everyone for showing up and participating. You really make this happen. I don't know what I'm going to do for next week yet, but then going on vacation afterwards. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. No live stream for 2 weeks at the end of September. But I'll talk more about that later. And if you have any ideas on what you want to see for next week, let me know. I'm open. So with that, I'm going to go eat dinner with the wife, and I will see you all later. You all have a great evening. Thanks, guys.